Welcome to the seasonal podcast.
There's the word.
Yeah, I keep thinking of productions. I don't know why. But
You know what? That makes sense. What's your name?
Lane. My name's Lane.
Oh, and what's my name?
Holden.
You're right. And what are we
doing? Good.
That's quite the way to start the episode. On this episode of the seasonal podcast, the debut episode that isn't the introduction one, we are going to be talking about Iron Man. This is the MCU review, part 1. This is a movie that Lane is very familiar with. I'm less familiar.
Yeah.
I've seen it a total of 2 times. The first time I saw it was maybe...
It has been like a month or so since I've watched it, but I've seen it so many times.
Yeah.
You should be able to reference
Yeah,
it.
you should be fine. I've seen it twice. The first time I watched it... That was a car. I don't know if that was audible here, but whatever.
Oh.
I watched it...
I think being in the basement, we wouldn't hear that much, but...
Well, it depends on if you have somebody with a big truck. Just...
Oh,
yeah. Because this town has a lot of hicks. Yeah. So... I've seen Iron Man. I don't know when it was I watched it the first time. I want to say it's been in the last 4 or 5 years. But then I watched it again maybe a week ago.
Okay, yeah.
So, Iron Man is the first entry in the MCU, and did you know, this is a fun fact that I learned relatively recently, it wasn't meant to spark off what it sparked off.
Really?
It was just meant to be a comic book movie.
Really? I did not know that.
Like, that's literally all it was supposed to be. John Favreau was just like, let's just make an Iron Man movie. And then they were like, okay, this should be cool. Let's make it.
They didn't, like, plan on the MCU?
No. You know the end credits scene?
Yeah.
That was just an Easter egg thing.
Really?
Jon Favreau did that just because he could. He was like, yeah, let's just throw this shit in here.
Huh.
And then fans freaked out when they saw it. They were like, and then Jon Favreau and everybody was like, we can do something with this. So they did something with it, and look at how it turned out. Billions of dollars in revenue for movies. Like, so much. God, that light is actually kind of blinding me this time. But yeah, that actually was unintentional. So that was something that I learned a couple weeks ago that I thought was really fun. Like, that's a really cool thing to learn. Because the movie does stand up on its own.
Yeah,
it really does. Fully does. It leaves on a technical cliffhanger. It's not a cliffhanger. It's just kind of it's a very abrupt resolution.
Yeah.
But it's a resolution enough. Yeah. So it could have just been a one-off movie that existed in the tide of bad superhero movies, if that's what it turned out being. Turns out, it's not a bad superhero movie.
No, it's really good.
Because
one of the better movies.
One of the better movies that I remember, because I haven't seen that many. It is good, like, to spark off the entire MCU. Pretty good way to do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, great. They had a great cast. Like, Robert Downey Jr. played...
Love him.
He played the snarky billionaire Tony Stark so well. Like,
he was amazing.
It's so good. Like, I forgot how good of a character Iron Man is, the way that Robert plays him, so... That was definitely really good. I just know that when I was first watching this last week and taking notes, because I'm taking notes for all these to help us like get through a little bit better. Maybe. We'll see how well that works.
Keep things going.
Maybe. Depends. Either way, the beginning, the cold open of this movie is not the best. The editing is messy.
Yeah.
The cold open out in the desert before it does the however long earlier scene or whatever it does. The very first couple minutes, the jump cuts in it are so bad. Like, okay, I'm an editor. I'm not, like, super professional. I'm not the best, and I definitely don't do it full time. But I'm editing all of the videos for seasonal productions. And I know enough about editing that I can, like, kind of think and observe and notice more things on that front, the post-production side of things about movies than most other people can.
Right.
The jump cuts used in this cold open are messy as fuck. Like, there's a jump cut every split second for a solid, like, 10 or 15 seconds there. Like, so many jumps, and it's like, what the fuck is even happening here? Like, when a movie just throws everything into 15 camera angles, and then uses every one of those 15 times. Yeah. That's what the cold open is. So I did not have high hopes, like, on this revisit. based on this opening scene because the dialogue is super snappy in this scene, like
Yeah.
overly snappy. And then again, I'm not used to watching movies, and I'm not used to watching MCU movies, which are known for their snappy, Josh, that's not the name, Joss Whedon, uh, dialogue. Like that's one of the things that they're known for. I was not fully prepared to be walking into a movie like that again, so the dialogue was overly snappy for me,
Right.
and the editing was messy. But other than that, Cold Open does a good job of making you be like, what the fuck? So that it can go back in time.
Yeah.
I would say it's a decent Cold Open. It's not the best Cold Open at all.
Not the best, but it's not horrible by any means.
Yeah, I like the open of Iron Man 2 better, but we'll get into that in that episode.
Yeah.
But it's also not a Cold Open style open.
No.
So we'll see. But that's what I noticed, at least in that scene. But then when it jumps back, to what did it jump back to? I don't remember. I should take better notes on the specific scenes. But let's see. Was it oh good grief! I might be getting Iron Man and Iron Man 2 mixed up. How does Iron Man start after it does the jump back in time?
It starts with just Tony Stark, I think.
I'm trying to remember how it starts with him. It doesn't start with him at a conference, does it? Because that's what Iron Man 2 does.
No. It starts with him, I think, partying?
Maybe? I don't remember. I just have, oh goodness gracious, I might be noticing how bad my notes might be, because some of these are just general feelings. Like one of these notes is Tony Stark refusal, pun intended, is also very satisfying, as deadly as it is. I don't remember what that's referencing. So that's a problem. So at least that's a good note for the future. Take better notes in the future, Holden. So let's see. Good grief. I do know that I know that early on in the movie there's a lot of commentary on America's actions in war, military practices, particularly in the Middle East. This movie came out in 2008. This was in the height of the Iraq war, Iran-Iraq period of time. There was like 4 or 5 years when we were in Iraq and Iran or whatever. I don't know them that well, but it was that part of the Middle East because Afghanistan started earlier. But
yeah,
I'm pretty sure it was Iraq. But during that time, we were in there, and I'm surprised that this movie had that much commentary.
Yeah.
Like, it's not superly explicit about good versus bad, but it does say a lot of things about how it can be messy, which I kind of appreciate the commentary. It
does a good job.
It's not super messy about it.
Yeah.
Because it's not trying to make a point. It's just kind of showing it in a way, especially with Stark's character development. Because eventually, I don't remember how the opening is after the cold open, but eventually it does get back into the Middle East as Stark.
Yeah, because he's trying out a new weapon.
Yeah,
and he goes to the Middle East
to demonstrate it.
Demonstrate it, and then on the car ride back or whatnot,
that's when the attack happens. Yeah, so I know that in that part, when they start going to the Middle East, Stark is very much like his father, and very much like the rest of the company, as we see it in the beginning of the movie, being like, Stark Industries is a weapons dealer. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And the commentary that it makes is that Stark is responsible for a lot of deaths and stuff in the Middle East. That it's Tony's fault, basically, which, depending on the character, you can kind of see it and understand it.
Yeah.
But at times, I think it handles that discussion relatively well. But the group that kidnapped Tony, I'm surprised that this name drop happened, especially, being someone who hasn't been in the MCU for that long. The Ten Rings. That's the group that kidnaps him.
Oh, really?
It's the Ten Rings, like the newest MCU movie that's not Eternals. It was Shang-Chi or Shang-Chi, however you pronounce it, and the Legend of the Ten Rings. And I
never even understood. I just now got that reference. Wow.
And I only noticed it after watching. I was like, or during the watch, I was like, the Ten Rings are just name dropped. And I don't remember them existing in any of the Marvel movies after.
No.
So it's like, I wonder if they just decided to use it again later.
Yeah.
Or something different like that. Or if, Tony's basic destruction of them in this movie kind of, causes them to have to take a step back or something. But I thought that was really interesting. Coming from a 2021 viewer watching, they name dropped the 10 rings, and I thought that was very strange. Yeah, that's basically what my note says. I was like, it got a visceral reaction out of me. I don't know what any of it means or any of the implications of it because I haven't seen the newer movies, obviously. But I thought it was pretty cool. So
yeah, I haven't seen like externals or Shang-Chi or any of that.
yeah, so let's see. What's this? Do you remember what the other dude's name was that Tony works with in the cave? I think this is like Yenshin or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Either
Who
way.
helps him build the Iron Man
Yeah,
suit.
who helps him build the Iron Man
That
suit?
first Iron Man suit that he builds.
Yeah, when I first saw Yenshin, I was so distressful.
Really?
I was like, what the fuck is this dude doing here? What is going on? I was like, I don't like this. Turns out he's a good guy. I did not fully realize this until like 4 minutes after we met him, that he was trying to help Stark, that he was also a prisoner or something.
Right.
I was like, what the hell is even going on? I guess they were using him. My guess is they were using him as a translator for Tony.
I would imagine so, but he also seemed capable. Like,
he seemed
smart.
very capable, so they were probably kidnapped both of them or something to be able to build the
give Tony
missiles.
an extra hand.
Yeah, something like that. Because they wanted the 10 Rings wanted Tony to build the weapon that they were showing off earlier.
Yeah.
So that was nice. And Tony basically refuses and builds the prototype for the Iron Man suit. I thought that the amount of time that they spent building that, I thought it was very good pacing for the movie.
Yeah. It didn't like rush things too much or
it takes a while. It's many scenes. It's over time, and there's many scenes where
it takes up a good part of the movie.
Yeah, a lot of the bad guys are, watching the camera and being like, what the fuck is he doing? Like, this doesn't look like the picture, and then somebody's just like, no, that's this part. You're just looking at it.
Yep.
Very cool. So, I thought that was indeed very cool. And, there's going to be plenty of notes. Not in this one, but there's going to be some notes that I have here about my internet. My internet was going out so bad watching some of these movies. Man, it's bad. Disney Plus doesn't have great optimization for that, but no streaming services do. Oh, yeah, because I made that note. I said, it's a nice touch that the 10 Rings wouldn't actually know whether Tony is doing what they want him to do or not, so that he and the other guy can build the suit for a while.
Yeah.
So...
He also builds the, what's the thing?
Oh, yeah.
The reactor.
I don't know what it's called, actually.
It's called, I know. It's,
I don't know what it's called. Either way, it's Tony's chess piece.
Yeah,
they built his chess because they built that first. That's right. They built so that he wouldn't have to be lugging around the battery.
Yeah,
I thought it was a cool concept to have, like the shrapnel and whatnot be like just going towards your heart. So I built this battery with magnets and whatnot to keep them out from stabbing you in the heart. And I'm like, cool. I don't know how the fuck realistic any of this is, but cool. It's one of those, suspend your disbelief. This is Marvel. You're going to suspend your goddamn disbelief every day. Especially since this movie takes place. I don't know if it officially takes place in 2008, but it takes place in a 2008 world, and none of the technology that they show there is possible for 2008. That's the way that the Marvel movies go.
Yeah.
Like Tony's technology with the holographic stuff that he can interact with. I love it. Like, I love that technology.
Super cool,
it's super striking. It's not at all realistic, but I love it.
Yeah.
And I just kind of... It always makes me laugh, just like watching that kind of stuff and just being like, I wonder how they did this in post. How they did this in editing. Did they just have a shot of him just doing random actions? They just had to fit it in. They kind of showed Tony just like, okay, do this kind of stuff, and then we'll fit it. I'm like, God, that'd be such a nightmare. It would be such a nightmare to edit these movies because...
Oh, even the newer ones, like, if you look at behind the scenes and like all the green screens and
that's part of why I love it and part of why I hate it. Because it makes me so interested. It's like, how do they do this with green screens and have it look good? Because, like, 20 years ago, green screens looked awful.
Yeah.
They were so bad. I know because I watched The Phantom Menace as well. The green screens in that movie are so bad.
They really are.
But the green screens in all the Marvel movies aren't bad, and 90% of the sets are green screen, and that's what I hate about it. It's because nothing's done on set. I would assume that plenty of this movie was done on set, though. How much of it takes place in the desert? I'm
sure they found a desert area.
I'm sure that they found some place that they could do on location. Because this is going to be a random short tangent, is Dune. Most of that movie is done on location. There are only a couple scenes that I know of that were done all green screen, and one of them was a big sandstorm. Obviously, that was going to be green screen.
Right.
Because they can't be in an actual sandstorm.
Oh, come on, they can. It's not that hard.
Yeah, if they want to die.
It's like, how much I'm paying you to act in this movie? You're going to be in the sandstorm.
But basically, like, that's part of the thing that I thought was cool, is it was all filmed on location. I would assume that this movie had a little bit more of the on-location stuff than a lot of the later movies do.
Yeah.
Because, especially once you get into end of phase 2 and phase 3, all of it's fucking green screen, bro. All of it's green screen, and I love it or hate it. And, I mean, I think if it looks good, it looks good, but it definitely takes a little bit of the magic out knowing that it's all green screen. But it does fascinate the editor side of me. That was basically what that whole tangent was about. And then I noted, unfortunately, for the sake of stakes, it couldn't stay the way that the Ten Rings didn't know what they were doing. Because eventually they catch on a little, and they're like...
Oh, yeah, wasn't there one time where they actually went in to see what he was building?
I think they did that twice.
Twice?
But I think the first time was just, what are you doing? And it's just like, we're working. And they're like, okay, whatever. And then I think the second time was like, you better be working. This isn't what I called you to do. And then they were going to kill Yenshin.
Oh, yeah.
That was a little bit later. They were going to kill him. And then Tony was like, no, I need him. And then they were like, I better have my missile by tomorrow.
Yes.
And then that's when they packed up and finished up the suit. Like, up to the last minute, he was doing the software.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool to have them doing the software.
It was a close call because they were breaking in as it was finishing up that, was it the software?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was some software related stuff for the machine so that he could control it because it was going to be too heavy for him to use.
Yenshin, that's his name.
I think it's Yenshin. That's what it sounded like, so that's what I have it written. I didn't do any research.
Basically to buy Tony.
Yeah,
a little bit more time
to buy the rest of the time to get the software downloaded. Yeah. He takes a gun from the people that they killed right at the gate to chase them all away.
Yeah, and
then that's when the software finishes and Tony goes after him. Because Tony yells at Yenshin a lot of times to, like, no, stick to the plan. But Yenshin had a different plan, and that was the plan all along. So he sacrificed himself, and he dies in the cave in front of Tony. But he was like... Because his story to Tony was that he was going to get out for his wife and kids. Or maybe it was just his wife. I think he mentioned kids.
I think he did mention kids, but
then
it all turns out that they're dead anyway.
It turns out that they're dead already. And, so he says this was always the plan. Yeah. And I thought that was really cool. Like, you know what? I don't appreciate lying very much. But there are some instances where it's like, you know what? That's a fair enough lie. Yeah. Fair enough, right? Because Tony's like, no, we're going to get you out of here. But Yenshin's like, they're already dead, mate.
Yeah.
I'll just buy him time because I'm going to die anyway.
Yeah.
Like, he was already prepared to, and I thought that was really cool. So, because I have a literal note here. Like, look what this says. No. Oh, good grief. No, Yenshin with a couple sad faces. I didn't want him to die. He was a cool character. He was a really cool character. I liked him, so
Tony, breaks out of the cage, fights them all off.
Fights them, and they're like, they can't get through the suit. And then eventually they start doing something. I don't remember what they're doing that causes him to want to shoot up. It might have been. It might have been a flamethrower. That sounds reasonably accurate.
I should know this.
Probably. I mean, if you're not paying attention. Either way, I think they're on the verge of getting him. But then
I know he flies.
Yeah, he flies to get away.
And then his suit breaks, and then he
that fall definitely fucking killed him. It killed him, bro.
It would.
It's not the fall that kills you. It's the immediate stop. There's no cushioning inside of a big iron suit.
Yeah.
With software and whatnot. Like, he's dead. He's dead from that fall, but whatever.
It's a movie.
I literally wrote down, yeah, no, that hit in the sand definitely killed him, LMAO.
Then he's in the desert for a minute. Doesn't he find the helicopter, or the helicopter finds him?
I think the helicopter...
And then...
Oh, yeah, he's roaming the desert for presumably, several hours, a day or two or something like that.
Yeah.
Because then he collapses into the sand like he's about to die because he has the head wrap.
Yeah.
Which was something that I never understood before a few years ago. Turns out that's what you're supposed to do because the sun will kill you if it's getting the direct contact to your head and stuff, so it's to protect it. But so I was always like, don't you want to not be wearing stuff because it's hot? No, the sun will kill you. But yeah, he's roaming around, and then the
helicopters pick him up, and then he does...
Was it Rhodes? Was Rhodes on one of them? I think so.
Yeah, he was.
That's right.
Rhodes was on one of them, and then...
I gotta say, I love Rhodes' actor in this movie.
Yeah, he's really... Was there a reason why they didn't keep him?
I don't know. I'm assuming there was some scheduling or possibly negotiation contract. Something went down.
Yeah, because then they changed the actor.
I think the actor in the rest of the movies is fine. Because he's the one
also
that I
a good
think
actor.
of as that character.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that that's who the character was because it was different in this movie.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see this guy, I don't remember his actor's name, be Rhodes in the rest of the MCU. That would have been cool.
That would have been nice. But
he and his facial hair look great.
So after Tony gets out of the desert, doesn't he call a press conference right away?
Yes, he calls a press conference right
Because
away.
he found his own weapons in the desert.
No. He called a press conference second. Cheeseburger first.
Cheeseburger first, yes. I'm not a low priority because before I do anything, I usually go eat the cheeseburger.
Yeah, it was like cheeseburger first, and you know what? Fair enough. I thought that was funny because everyone didn't want him to do the press conference, but then he did.
And then he shut down. Didn't he shut down Tony or like Stark's the company?
He announced that Stark's was no longer going to be a weapons dealer. That's what he said at the conference because he discovered, I guess, out in the desert. Somehow, I don't remember how he discovered it in this first movie, that the bad guys were using...
They saw his... When he was getting kidnapped, the weapon that was shot at him, he saw it, the missile land in the dirt, and it said Stark on it.
Oh, okay.
And then, so...
Okay, yeah, that's right. And then, of course, he also... noticed that, I think some of the bad guys were also probably noticing... Well, because they wanted his weapon, so they probably presumed... He probably presumed that they had some of his other stuff, and then as well as the fact that some of the bad guys were probably, or some of the people he's interacted with, have mentioned how many people he's killed.
Yeah.
I guess because the bad guys already had his stuff. So then he announces at the press conference, we're no longer a weapons dealer, and everybody thinks he's crazy.
Right.
And everybody's upset. So... understandable. Stock goes down. I'm kind of surprised by how much weight they put into, like, the Stark Industries stock in this movie regarding that kind of stuff. Like, we knew it was going to go down this many points. It was just like, yeah, but it wasn't supposed to. You shouldn't have said that. Yeah. And I think this is when his partner, Obadiah, is really, like, introduced as a character.
Yeah.
Jeff Bridges is his actor. I love Jeff Bridges, okay? Mm-hmm. He was the only movie that I've ever seen him in, besides this one, is Tron Legacy, which actually came out a couple years later.
I never watched Tron.
Tron Legacy, I love that movie. It is such an underrated movie, and Jeff Bridges plays the main character's dad. And they have some scenes in another character that is Jeff Bridges young, so they superimpose his face from younger movies. And it looks good. I really like Jeff Bridges. He was a cool character in that movie. He's a cool dude. So, that's what I'll say about that. I literally have Tony's partner as the dad from Tron Legacy. I love that guy. Because I recognized him immediately. I was like, that's the guy, ain't it? So then I had to pause the movie and make sure, because I'm a dork. Let's see.
So he shuts down, or says it's not going to be a weapons dealer anymore.
Yeah, and then they basically put him on house arrest.
House arrest,
is basically what Obadiah does. Obadiah and Pepper, they're like, no, we have to put you on house arrest. You can't do this. Because he's not in the
right mindset.
Yeah, because
for being out in the desert for that.
Yeah, they try to.
Okay.
They're gaslighting him, basically.
Yeah.
It seems like they're gaslighting him, and then this is when Tony is made the new reactor for his chest.
Yeah.
For his heart, and is removing the old one and gets a wire caught somewhere,
And then
because the robot messes up getting it out.
Oh, yeah.
So he calls Pepper, just like, I need you down here now. And then Pepper is just like, well, what do I do? And then he's like, you don't make it touch the walls. It's like Operation. She's just like, what's Operation? And I'm like, there's no way you don't fucking know what Operation
Everybody
is,
knows
lady.
what Operation
Everybody knows what Operation is. You use the pin. Or the tweet. It's like tweezers.
It's tweezers.
You pull out the little pieces.
And you don't touch the sides. Or
yeah.
it buzzes. It buzzes.
And it's, oh man, nightmare fuel. That screech is so bad. But I refuse to believe that I had to note that down. I was like, I refuse to believe Pepper doesn't know what Operation is. They had to put that in because of the snark. That was a line that kind of cost me just a tiny bit. I was like, yeah, there's no way. But either way, oh, and then something that I found confusing here.
What's that?
He mentions that she can't bring the magnet out. That's at the bottom. Mm-hmm. But when she pulls the wire out, it pulls out the magnet as well. And he's just like, yeah. And then he says you weren't supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And then she tries to put it back in. He's just like, no, don't put it back in. And then he just puts the new reactor in. And I'm like,
so I don't know, maybe.
So, I was like, Tony said to not bring the magnet out, and then they proceeded to not put it back in because he said so. I was like, I'm hesitant to call it a plot hole, but that's really weird. I assume that he probably took care of it himself after the fact, but that's really weird to make a point to say, don't take out the magnet. Have her accidentally take out the magnet, put the new reactor in, and then just not address it. Outside of you weren't supposed to do that. I thought that was really weird. You know, it doesn't cost the movie anything. Really, it's just something that I noticed, but let's see. I think this is when he's starting to actually build the suit. After this is when he's starting to build the updated version of the Iron Man suit.
Oh, yeah.
Because I noticed when he got onto the original computer and it shows him doing the password, that keyboard layout, whatever the fuck that was, I was like, that is so not ergonomic. What the hell is that? It's got like a design that's like this with some random stuff and then some other stuff here with something, and it's just like, and the way he's moving his hands to do it, I'm like, what kind of keyboard would do that ever? Period. Like, what? You know what? Whatever, futuristic technology, I'm willing to go with it, but that was weird. That was weird. And then I pointed this out earlier, I loved the 3D holograph type of stuff that he messes with. When he pulls out the sections of the blueprint for the machine and throws it into the little trash can on the side, I thought that was cool. I love that hologram looking technology. It looks cool.
I can't wait until we have like holograms ourselves that we can like.
Yeah, like that would be so cool to interact with that kind of stuff. Especially the way that they use it, like in the second movie. In the second movie, they use it in some ways that I'm like.
They use it in the adventure. Anytime Tony Stark is involved in any of the movies, they use that.
Like I remember a specific scene with Jarvis in Age of Ultron.
Yeah, that whole because that's a whole other movie.
Yeah, that's a whole other movie, a whole other thing. But
start talking about.
But that's like my main memory with this technology that I think of is one specific scene in Age of Ultron, because I think that was the first Avengers related movie aside from the first two Captain Americas I ever saw.
Yeah,
I think was Age of Ultron. I never saw the first Avengers, believe it or not, because it was never in the library. It was never in the library here, but Avengers 2 was, so I just watched Avengers 2.
Oh my god, you gotta watch the first one. The first one was the best.
Well, that'll be the last movie in the Phase 1, so...
True.
No, wait. It's not the first movie, because there's one that comes after it randomly for some reason. I forget what it is, but that's not important.
Is it? No.
Maybe I'm remembering wrong, but who knows? It doesn't fucking matter. But either way, I just love that futuristic aesthetic in the movie. Like, it looked super cool. And then him working through the process of building the suit and doing the tests.
Yeah.
Super awesome. And seeing the final suit in the silver.
Seeing just like how smart he is and like how he.
Yes, the way
they show in that movie that he really is a genius and can create new shit.
And they show that he can do it all himself. He can build it himself. I mean, they mention it in the beginning with some articles that Tony Stark gained the company from his dad because he built his first engine at like 7 years old or
6
something.
6 years old, I think.
6? There was something at 4 and something at 6 or something. Like there was when he was really young.
I know he like programmed or did his first like programming or something at like age 4 maybe, or
either way. In the beginning, they outline a lot of Stuff that Tony could do at a young age.
Thing I saw on the news the other day. There's a girl who's 8 years old who just graduated high school and is in 2 engineering classes.
Christ almighty.
I'm
These
like,
child prodigies are crazy.
Dude, I'm like, damn. Like, I wish I was that smart. I wish I had the intelligence of that little girl, or like even Tony Stark.
Yeah,
like just that intelligence. You know what I would do with that intelligence? Pretty much like what Elon Musk is doing.
You know what? Fair enough. But that's something that I find cool about Tony. He's not just the snarky billionaire. He's not just an entitled fuck.
No,
he
really
does it all
smart.
Himself.
Yeah.
He knows how to build it. He
and
builds
when you
the
do
suit
something
himself.
like that all by yourself, and you know all that, you have every right to.
Yeah. The only thing that I thought was weird was he was testing the final suit in silver in his garage. You're not gonna test your suit with all those nice cars in there.
Smart people do dumb shit.
Like, I get that would probably fly over Tony's head, but I'm like, that's such an obvious.
To him, those cars are probably like, I'm just buying a new one.
I mean, that's true, and I guess that's fine, but at the same time, I found it so weird that, like, you're doing the test of flying, not just getting off the ground, but flying around the garage with the cars, and then he's like, oh, watch the paint, when he's going over the cars, and I'm like, why did you do it in here in the first place,
Before
you idiot?
He even did that, like, he tried the boosters and he, like, fly up and hit the
Yeah, that too, and I'm like...
Should've died. Should've died, but, you know.
I can see you possibly surviving, but you'd be in intensive care for a week.
Or a coma.
Or that. Like,
yeah.
It's funny, though. It is funny. I'll give it that it is a little bit humorous. It's not my type of humor, but it's still pretty funny. Yeah, this is where I put the note. I don't know why he does this test in the garage. I was like, he's an absolute maniac. But then I was like, Robert Downey Jr. sells the part so well. I think I mentioned this earlier, but his nonverbal acting is really good. Yeah. Like the way that they did the shots of the face inside the suit.
Yeah.
It really worked for me.
It's
kind of an image that's always existed. As they show Tony inside the suit. Which is a really weird shot.
Like all the little,
with all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would think that would be a really bad type of shot to get, because close-ups can be really easy to mess up.
Yeah.
But it worked.
Yeah, it works.
It works. So. Oh, and then of course, that's also when he does the final test with the suit to make sure that it can fly, and then he tries to test the icing. I guess he did that on purpose because he wanted to find a way to solve the icing problem.
Oh, yeah.
Which comes up later, actually, which I found really neat.
It was a good callback.
It was a really good callback.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they actually showed that early on, because it's really important. It's a little bit random. Like, when you're watching it at first, it's like, I don't know why he's doing this, when Jarvis is telling him, like, no.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it works well enough. The thing that I thought was really stupid, now this is something I won't forgive the movie for. This is really stupid. He gets above the very roof of the house.
Yeah.
And he's only like a foot above. And then he drops and he goes through 2 fucking floors and lands onto the car in the garage.
Oh, yeah.
That's such a stupid shot. Now, if he was like 50 feet in the air, fine. But then he'd also be definitely dead. But, I mean, he'd be dead if he went through the house like that anyway. There's no way he went through the roof and then at least 1 floor. I think 2 floors.
I couldn't remember the amount.
It was at least 2 layers of the house.
Yeah.
From a foot fall. Yeah. Even if that suit was 1,000 pounds, it's not doing that.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
I thought that was so stupid. I was like, well, a 2 foot fall, but it was so small. He's like that far up above, and then he falls through, and I'm like. But then again, it's also a good callback because they use that to get out later in the movie. He uses it. But
a lot of callbacks in this movie.
Yeah, but make it make sense. Make the whole make sense. He's not going through 2 floors of building from a 2 foot fall. Yeah. And then I can't remember what Stan Lee's appearance in this movie was, but I made a note. I was like, I miss Stan Lee with the sad face.
I could not remember his.
I don't remember his Easter egg appearance in this movie. I'm pretty sure I remember it in the second one, because it was really early on in the second one. It was within the first, 7 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But, let's see. That's unimportant, though. I just wanted to point that out, because I love Stan Lee. Let's see. I just noted the argument between Pepper and Tony is cute and realistic simultaneously somehow. I don't remember specifically the argument. It was probably something to do with him in the suit or something like that.
It
was when she discovered the suit, I guess.
Yeah.
Probably.
Well, and he was obsessed. Like, he wasn't doing anything other than that suit.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And it was affecting the company, and it was...
Not that he was allowed to say anything anyway.
That's fair, but he... I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember the argument, but this is also pretty close to when Obadiah shows up, and he's being a real fucking jerk. A real big jerk, and
he's being a jerk, but...
And then we start to realize why later.
Yeah.
And then, I can't remember... Oh, yeah! This is why I said fuck Obadiah, straight up, just fuck Obadiah. This is when Tony discovers that Obadiah has been selling Stark Industries weapon stuff to
under the table.
Rings.
Yeah,
under the table to the bad guys in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I got a little hint of it because he was being a jerk in some areas, and he was being super adamant against Tony's desire to not do weapons dealing anymore.
Right.
And now it's obvious why, because Obadiah was selling them under the table. And I was like, okay, yeah, fuck you. And then that's when Tony discovers it, and I wrote a note. This is why I remembered an hour, 15 minutes in, the full Iron Man finally comes out to play, because this is after he actually paints it red.
Yeah.
Add a little bit of red into their Jarvis. That's not very subtle. Basically, is that conversation, and I'm like, you know, fair enough. It looks cool, though. So, but that's when he flies all the way to the Middle East, which... No, he didn't, but still.
well, that reactor in his chest, it's
he built
unlimited power.
Yeah, he built it specifically to be able to power the suit, because that's why the old one wasn't going to work, because it only had limited power supply. But even then, like, the way that it frames it makes it seem like he gets there instantly, and it just feels really off.
It would have taken him days, but...
Yeah, and I thought that scene was really cool, especially when Iron Man finally, like, shows up there. Because, like, the 10 rings, like, lining the man up against the wall to murder them and putting the women and children up into the backs of the trucks, I was like, this is poignant.
Yeah.
Disturbingly poignant. Like, surprisingly for a mainstream type of movie in 2008. Yeah. I'm surprised they depicted the 10 rings that way in the movie. Because no matter how accurate, that's not something you see in movies anymore.
No, you don't.
That's not something you see in movies anymore. This is another point that I'm going to bring up from Dune.
Mm-hmm.
Dune, the book, as far as I know, has a lot of influence from Middle Eastern culture. It's very famous in the Middle East because of how accurate it is and how, like, straightforward it is about depicting certain Middle East culture.
Right.
And that was something that the movie didn't keep, was because it's like a catch-22. Because the way that the culture is depicted in the book and the movie is accurate, but it's also fairly brutal to the Muslim culture, basically, to that area, to the way that certain Arabians were, especially at that time. So they didn't want to include that in the movie. They didn't cast any Arab actors in that movie for that reason, because it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you do it, then you're inadvertently depicting that culture that way. Even if it's accurate, that's not going to be in a mainstream movie these days.
Yeah.
So they didn't. But that's kind of what I thought was so visceral and disturbing about the scene in this movie, was because they showed that. And I'm like, you know, it was 2008, different time, but that's not something that you see in movies anymore. No matter how sad that is, like, a lot of people try to avoid stuff. And I mean, I can understand it, but still, and it was meaningfully disturbingly poignant. Because then Iron Man comes and fucks shit up. Then Tony comes in and kills all them, and then the son running back to his...
on the shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
Like, trying to hold people hostage. And
he uses them and targets all of them, and then just like... Because he kills the first couple, and then they're just like, no, and then they, you know, take the human shields, which is fucked, but they do that because that's what they do, and then they do the human shields, and he's just like... targets all of them, and then they're done. And I'm like, you know, fair enough.
And then, so after that, he's continuing to do his thing in the Middle East, and the U.S. sees it and sends out 2 jets after him.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
The jets almost fuck him up, surprisingly. I was
'Cause-
surprised by that.
Because he's
honestly.
like unidentified. They don't know what the fuck he is.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. They don't know what the hell he is. And even Rhodes is like, I'm gonna make a call, and he calls Tony. He's just like, where are you? And then Tony's just like, I'm driving my,
Some car, but...
what? I forget what they're called. Convertible. I'm
Yeah.
driving a convertible up in the mountains. And then he was breathing like hard and whatnot because he was like doing all the swerving in the suit. He's just like, the fuck is that about? And then Tony's just like, I'm taking a jog in the mountains. And he was just like, I thought you were driving there. Yeah, I'm driving to jog. And I'm like, you know what? This is actually Tony.
Yeah.
Like, that's so funny. And at this point in the movie, I'm like, I find Tony to be a much more sympathetic character than I initially anticipated I would.
Yeah.
Because once he discovers Obadiah, once he discovers that his arms are being used for, like, being used by the Ten Rings, he's like, and then once he discovers Obadiah being the one selling them under the table, he really skyrockets as a character.
Yeah.
Like, his purpose goes away. Like, instead of just being the arms dealer, he's like, no, I have a purpose. I need to, this can't be what this is about. And I thought that was really cool. So, there's that. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is way later. But yeah, that scene with the jets and stuff, it was pretty funny and cool.
Yeah.
Like, there was a lot of stuff about it.
Do they end up shooting him out of the sky, or do they... I know he takes down one of the jets and has to save
because
one of the guys.
He eventually gets off target and then hides on the belly of one.
Yeah.
And then they're, just like, okay, we lost him, come back. And then when they start to turn, he sees him underneath.
That's funny.
And then they eventually get him, and he gets neutralized and is stopped, and then the wing hits him, and then the whole wing, or the plane goes down. And then he has that jet fighter does the emergency ejection out of the cockpit and is flying, and his chute's stuck. So Iron Man goes to pull the chute, like fix the chute for him, just punch it and pull it out. And the other jet is behind him, still trying to shoot Tony, and I'm like... That's basically how that whole scene goes. It's like, good grief, this is insane. But, I mean, it's a really cool scene because then eventually, like, they stop. But
yeah,
I don't know when. I don't think Rhodes really realized that it was Tony until Tony finally called him back and said, "It's me. Your object is me."
Yeah, I remember that part.
Yeah, it was really funny. But then when he comes back home, let's see. Yeah, that's right. Because then Pepper has to get. Tony gets Pepper to go to the office to go gather the information from Section 19 or whatever it's called, where Obadiah's been working. That has all the hidden stuff.
And they find out that he put the hit out on Tony in the Middle East.
Yeah, so they find all... Oh, yeah, that's right.
Because they didn't even know they were going to capture Tony Stark until they captured him, and it was like, okay, we're going to have to raise the price for what,
That's right, because they sent that's when Pepper finds out on the computer that they sent the video to him. It's just like, you didn't tell us that the man you wanted us to kill was Tony Stark.
And at that point in the movie, S.H.I.E.L.D.
is coming into play.
Yeah, because they want to meet with Tony, or Tony keeps putting it off, or I couldn't remember the exact...
I don't know if that actually happens, because I actually have a note, introduction of S.H.I.E.L.D. 2, but that's a little bit later. So...
Peppa gathers the information, and then she asks that agent to walk with her.
Yeah, because Obadiah comes into the office and nearly catches her.
And basically does after she leaves, he realizes what she did.
Yeah, because
he watches her leave.
Because she turns it onto the screen saver just in time.
Yeah.
But then when she's about to leave, she discreetly pulls out the thumb drive. But he knew what she was doing. Yeah. But then he opens the screensaver when she leaves, and it says download complete or whatever it was that it said. And he was like, oh, fuck. And then she goes with the meeting with the guy, which was another cool callback. It was just a lot of little things that I think fit really well timeline-wise, which was kind of cool. But it was this point in the movie, I don't think they did a great job. I might have been writing a note that made it hard for me to tell, but there was a point where I thought that office was one of the rooms in Tony's house. So when Obadiah came in, I was like, why the fuck does he still have access to the house? Like, Tony would refuse to give him access to the house immediately. And I was like, what the hell? But then I figure out, oh, it's the office. Never mind.
Yeah.
I'm just stupid. But then, he does still have access to the house. He gets in the house with Tony, somehow. And uses that.
Yeah, the little thing.
Because he uses it earlier on one of the Ten Rings guys. I didn't note that. It was cool. It's like this thing that paralyzes you temporarily. Like, it makes you unable to move. And it, like, makes you all veiny.
The only reason they didn't use it more is the U.S. government said, no, that's not a weapon that will...
Yeah, I guess so. Something like that. I don't remember it for sure. But it was probably some regulations reason.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So Obadiah uses it on Tony and gets in. Whatever. And I noticed between shots, this was a post-production thing, so this I noticed was because when he uses it and Tony's like this and his eyes are pointed down this way.
Yeah.
And then in the immediate next scene, his eyes are pointed this way and Obadiah grabs his face. Like it's a cut to a different angle. And I was like, I see what you did there. You ain't getting past me. I edit. But, you know, nothing too great. I doubt most people noticed, but I noticed.
Right.
And then I said, by the way, still fuck Obadiah. I love Jeff Bridges, but fuck Obadiah.
Yeah. Because he reveals his plan to Tony.
Yeah, he does. He's up
like, I put the hit out on you,
and then he straight up admits it to Tony because he might presume that Pepper have already told Tony, but maybe not because Pepper might still. I think Pepper's still in that meeting with the other guy.
Right.
Which is why she's still not at the house or something like that.
Didn't he take the chess piece out of Tony? So he
thought
Tony was going to die anyway. So he's like, I might as well just tell you what I did.
Yeah, and then
you're going to be dead anyways. So.
And then he rips... Oh, he uses whatever it is. It's something that he clamps onto the chest and just rips it out through his shirt.
Yeah.
And then Tony stumbles downstairs. Or maybe he's already in his garage. I think it might have been in his garage.
No. He was in his living room, and then he has to stumble down the stairs. And then he Rhodes comes in after that.
One second. Before that, there was actually a scene earlier in the movie where when Tony told Pepper when she was taking out the wire to get rid of the old one. And then she puts it on a little case onto
Tony Stark has.
Yeah, which I thought it was sweet when I saw it initially.
Yeah.
But then they use it.
And I think he was too weak to grab it, but then doesn't Rose come down and be like, and puts it in him or something?
No. What happens, he's collapses right before he's able to get it, one of the robots. Because he spent the whole movie criticizing these robots for being dumb fucks.
Didn't he threaten to give him to a college or something? For
that's right. Hey, if you extinguish me one more time when I'm not on fire, I'm gonna donate you to a college. Yeah.
And the robots have feelings because
they get sad. It was funny, but no, the robot grabs it and brings it down, and then he's like, I don't remember what he says, but he says something, and then he slams it against the ground, and then he's done.
Yeah,
he's not able to do it. I think that's when Rhodes comes in and finds it and puts it in or something like that.
And then once because
that's when I wrote down the robots are so fucking cute. Yeah. I had forgotten what the reference was. Now I remember what the reference was. So
then he gets into his Iron Man suit because he has to go stop
Obadiah. Yeah.
And Obadiah at this point.
Oh yeah, because he's also called Pepper, or maybe he hasn't called Pepper, but Pepper's gone with the agent that she had that meeting with him and some other guys to go to the office to arrest Obadiah. That's right. Yeah. Because then she tries to use the badge to try to get in, and she can't get in. She's like, and then they use the bomb.
Yeah.
The thing to get through the door, and that's how Obadiah knows that they're there. So he gets into the warmonger suit.
Which is
so big.
It's huge. I was surprised at how big.
Yeah, because they explore the room a little bit. I'm going off camera. Itching, but they go into the room and they see the initial concept because the 10 Rings had basically sold it back to Obadiah, but that's when Obadiah used it on the 10 Rings guy. The thing to paralyze him was just like, yeah, no, fuck you. And then took all the shit back. And he used those plans and whatnot to be able to build the Warmonger suit, which it looks cool, but it looks so disproportional. Like,
it really does.
In the suit, until he opens the mask to show his face, it looks like there's no possible way he fits in the suit. Like, it just doesn't look like it fits human proportions.
Yeah.
It starts to make a little sense if you look at it in a certain way, but it definitely looks too weird for me, which is why I think that some of the bad guy stuff that happens in Iron Man 2 is better, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Either way, that's when he attacks them, and then Iron Man shows up. And he's calling Pepper, is just giving her directions to do stuff.
Like,
Obadiah's voice in the suit, in the Warmonger suit, sounded so epic and awesome. Because Jeff Bridges' voice is so cool anyway.
Yes.
In the suit, he sounded amazing. He sounded absolutely awesome. And that's when I noted, the suit seems unrealistically big for a person to be operating. It just doesn't match proportional measurements. But then it shows it later with his face, and I was like, okay, whatever. But still, and then that's when he and Obadiah go through the whole chase sequence, and then
up in the sky, his suit
is,
and then falls
because Tony's suit is also freaking out because he's running low on power really quick because it wasn't designed to power the suit.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why Obadiah stole the power generator. I don't know why that didn't click in my head. He stole Tony's heart. Probably both to kill him and to be able to use it for a suit.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know why that didn't click in my head. That just clicked, but and then
they fall to the ground.
He says to Obadiah, "How did you solve the icing problem?" And then he's like, "Icing problem," and then his suit fails.
It didn't do much though. It
didn't do much though because he survived.
Fell and then got back up and was ready to fight again.
Yeah, it was only a couple minutes.
Didn't they have to use what was that big generator that Tony was trying to create?
Yes, because that was what happened, because that's how Tony made his heart piece, was basically making that technology, but it was a power arc reactor or something like that.
Arc reactor, and he just made it super tiny to fit into his heart.
Because Obadiah was like, using some of the engineers from Stark Industries, just like, I need you to make this. And then there's a scene where he tells Obadiah, and he's just like, I'm afraid that technology doesn't exist. And Obadiah's just like,
Tony Stark,
idiot, it's right here. And he's just like, it's impossible to condense. He's just like, Tony Stark built it. And that's when Jeff Bridges just screams.
In a cave.
And he built this in a cave with scraps.
It's like, I'm not Tony Stark. So, what do you want me to do here?
And that, intimidating as fuck, honestly.
Yeah.
But still, like, and then Tony's now at this point directing Pepper to basically self-destruct the arc reactor.
Yeah.
To just blow up. And he's hanging onto the ceiling, and Obadiah in the suit is on top of the roof and stuff. And then, it goes through this whole thing, and then it blows up, and I don't remember. Oh, yeah, because Obadiah falls into it.
Yeah.
In the explosion, that's right. And Stark survives by, I guess, getting over the ledge on the roof. I guess is what makes sense. Or at least to me, that's what makes sense.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of what happens. And I thought that was pretty cool. But then that's when S.H.I.E.L.D. as an agency is introduced, because the agents that Pepper was talking to and got into the Section 19 or whatever. 19? I don't remember if it's 19. But either way, it's how that goes, and they kind of introduce S.H.I.E.L.D. Because they've been trying to get Stark to join.
Yeah.
And then Stark's just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't give a damn.
So then after that battle, it kind of leads towards...
It's basically the end scene, where it's the last press conference again.
S.H.I.E.L.D. came up with like a fake story to...
Yeah, fake story. He was on vacation. Obadiah's in like over the Atlantic or something.
Yeah.
And it's all, everything's an alibi. But then the one random reporter who Tony sleeps with in the first 15 minutes is there at the press conference. It's just like, do you really expect us to believe your horse shit? And Tony's just like, no, I don't. I'm Iron Man.
And that's the end of the movie.
And that's the end of the movie. He basically, breaks script because they tell him don't go off script. And then he goes off script. It's just like, the dirty motherfucker. He's just like, because the truth is, I'm Iron Man. And then the movie ends. And this is what I noticed. Disney Plus actually has a thing so that you can skip the credits and go to the end credit scene if there's an end credit scene.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Honestly, great. Because then I could skip right to the end credit scene. Because I knew this beforehand, that the end credit scene was just an Easter egg.
Right.
That's when they show Nick Fury And everybody goes wild. It's
Yeah.
like, Nick Fury, this is going to be big. And that's what happens. And I was like, you know what? That's fucking cool. Like,
It was a good way to end off the movie, I think.
I think so. Like
It
it resolved the arcs and the problems that existed in the movie.
Yeah.
Like the problem that Tony was faced with was introduced well. And I think even the main arc that Tony goes through in the second movie is really good too.
Oh yeah.
Like they found a great way to come up with that wasn't undermining the struggles that he went through in the first movie.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about several episodes in the future
Yeah.
whenever we get to that movie. But I thought that was really cool, and it's a good movie. Like
Yeah,
after
really
the cold open, like I said, I thought the dialogue was too snappy and the editing was a bit much, and I was like,
yeah.
I was a little bit worried about it, but it's a good movie, and I think it's a fantastic debut for the MCU, especially considering
It wasn't meant.
it wasn't meant to start all
yeah.
of this. Like,
Yeah.
I literally wrote a note, who would have thought this film would be the beginning of everything that happened? Nobody did. They didn't intend for it to.
No, but I'm
And then
glad
it did anyway.
because
And
we got a bunch of these great movies now.
yeah, so it was really cool. So, yeah, I was like,
I rate
it's
this
also,
movie a good 8.5, 9 out of 10. Honestly.
I don't know how I would rate it because based like on my video game reviews, I don't do number scores. I've only done a number score on one game.
Oh.
And that was because I felt obligated to based on different circumstances.
Mm.
But I do number scores for my book stuff.
Right.
So I don't know what I would give this. I think I would just call it a hearty 7.5 out of 10. Like it's a good movie.
Yeah.
Particularly since I'm not super into the way that a lot of these Marvel movies go is going through the same story and same arc.
Yeah.
A lot of them, like, in the same format, I guess is the way to put it. They're a lot of the same format. And it's kind of an average format.
Right.
But they make good, enjoyable movies for it. Like, it wouldn't be as popular as it is if it wasn't any good at all.
Right.
Unless it's Twilight. I'm kidding.
I can't believe I went on Twilight binge. What was it, a couple months ago?
I don't know how long ago it was. I'm kidding.
I can't believe I got into Twilight for a minute there. I watched, there was 6 movies, right? Or 7?
There should be 5.
5? Fuck. Okay.
4 books. One of them was
I just watched it
2
one of the
parts, I
actors
guess.
was hot.
But anyway, that's not a topic for this video. But
Are we gonna review Twilight?
no. I fucking fuse.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I think it's a good movie. I'll give it like a 7.5, 7.75. It's not like an exceptional, but I suppose I'll give it an 8.
Yeah, give it an 8.
I'll give it
Just
an
keep
8
rounding it
because it's a good Marvel movie.
Yeah.
It's a really good Marvel movie. 'Cause
up. Good superhero.
Yeah,
movie.
Marvel's not my super tastes. I like
Right.
darker and grittier stuff, so the whole Marvel, Jon Favreau, Joss Whedon type of dialogue and stuff like that sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. It's a little bit messy sometimes.
Right.
It's a good movie.
It
Like,
is.
it's nothing to complain about. Like, there's a couple problems, like going through the 2 floors. Like,
The just little problems. There's
yeah, there are
nothing that,
little
like,
problems that they
hurts the
use
actual
later.
movie in general.
Yeah, like,
But yeah,
like the movie itself doesn't have problems. It's
No.
enjoyable enough. So, which
Yeah.
makes it a really good movie. And I mean, it's perfectly intended to be that way since it's not meant to be part of this big arc. Because I think that that's not necessarily a problem, but I think that's something that maybe some of the particularly Phase 3 movies go through. Is
Yeah.
by that point, everything is so interconnected that some of the movies, especially when they release, probably are a little bit messy in terms of what they're meant to stand for
Yeah.
and stuff. Because, like, Phase 1, most of the movies are standalone outside of the Avengers.
Yeah.
I think that's the only one where it's, like, really bringing forth a lot. Like, Iron Man 2 kind of brings in a couple of those ties.
It
and
does,
characters
but
and stuff, but a lot of these movies stand more alone in this first arc.
Up
and then
until Avengers.
yeah, and then Phase 2 expands a little bit more, but there's still a lot of standalones in it.
Yeah.
Phase 3 only has a couple standalone movies, and the few that it has, only like a couple of them are new IP movies. Like most of them are with characters that we've already seen. or are sequels to movies that we've already seen.
Yeah.
Like that. So most of Phase 3 it's very well established. And this being the first movie, it doesn't suffer from that.
No.
So
It does good.
either way, I think that's all we need to talk about on this one. Good movie, works well. First episode of the MCU review done.
Yes.
But then wait,
Yeah.
that's
copyright.
Anyway, we'll be back again in 2 weeks on the 21st with the first episode of the Star Wars retrospective. I already know that. I have that planned out. So, join us then. Make sure to subscribe to the King Crusoe YouTube channel for the seasonal podcast and everything else that I release. Check out seasonalproductions.com for all of my writing. And all of the video stuff is also there as well. So it's an easy place, one-stop shop for everything. So, with all that being said, I think that's all. I guess that's the end of the episode. We'll have to come up with one of these outros. So,
yeah.
goodbye.